The night air was sharp with the scent of ozone, a lingering reminder of the recent thunderstorm. Under the cloak of darkness, the tiny rural town of Elm Ridge seemed untouched by time, its quaint houses huddled together like old friends sharing secrets. In this serene tableau, a piercing whine shattered the calm, a sound unlike anything the townsfolk had ever heard before. At the edge of Henderson's field, where corn stood as tall as a man, the air rippled unnaturally. Without warning, a brilliant sphere of light descended, casting eerie shadows as it hovered just above the soaked earth. It was here, in this unlikely spot, that she arrived. Her name was Zera, a being from a world light years away from Earth. Her form was luminous, constantly shifting, a kaleidoscope of colors contained within a vaguely humanoid shape. Zera had been sent as a scout to secure a prize that had sparked conflict among the stars. Michael Gordon, a seemingly ordinary human whose genetics held the key to unimaginable power. As Zera's form solidified, she surveyed her surroundings. The mission was clear, but she had to act quickly. Others would be coming, driven by the same goal, each intent on claiming Michael for their own purposes. In the shadows of the corn, two more lights appeared, each coalescing into the form of another alien, both female, both breathtakingly fierce. One, tall and covered in silvery scales that glittered like diamonds, introduced herself as Vela. The other, with skin as dark as the void of space and eyes that burned like suns, was called HFY. They too were here for Michael. Zera didn't hesitate. "We must find him before the others arrive," she urged, her voice a melodic chime that seemed to resonate with the wind. Vela's lips curled into a smirk. "And why would we share this prize with you?" Her voice was a hiss, tinged with a predatory edge. Before Zera could respond, HFY stepped forward, her gaze intense. "Because, unlike you, I do not wish to fight on this primitive planet. I seek an alliance at least until we secure the human. Then we may determine the rightful possessor of his genetics." The tension was palpable, each alien assessing the others, calculating potential threats and alliances. Finally, Zera nodded. "Agreed. We will work together for now." Their temporary truce established, the trio set off into the night. They moved with otherworldly grace, darting through the fields and over fences with ease. Elm Ridge was asleep, unaware of the cosmic struggle that was unfolding in its midst. As they approached the town center, a quaint collection of shops and homes, Zera's senses tingled. She could feel Michael's presence, an unmistakable aura that tugged at her consciousness. "This way," she whispered, leading them towards a modest two-story house on Maple Street. Inside, Michael Gordon was asleep, his dreams untouched by the cosmic forces converging on his doorstep. But those dreams were about to be interrupted. The three alien warriors positioned themselves around the house, each preparing for the moment they would confront the human who unknowingly held the fate of galaxies in his genes. The night grew deeper, the stars watching silently as a new chapter in the universe's story began to unfold in the quiet little town of Elm Ridge. In the subdued glow of street lamps, the shadows around Michael's house deepened, the air thick with anticipation. Zera, Vela, and HFY positioned themselves strategically, each concealed yet having clear sightlines to the house's modest front door. The pact among them was fragile, the air crackling not just with Earth's residual storm energy, but with the potent force of their mutual distrust. Suddenly, the quiet was disrupted by a low hum, barely audible over the rustle of wind-stirred leaves. Zera's form flickered, her colors shifting anxiously. "They're here," she murmured, not needing to specify who. The competition had arrived, and with them, the stakes escalated. From the darkness, two more figures emerged, their arrival marked by the soft glow of bioluminescence that seemed to outline their forms against the night. One was cloaked in a cloak that absorbed light, her form almost blending into the shadows completely, giving her an almost ghostly presence. Her companion was starkly different, radiating a fiery aura, her features sharp, framed by a mane of what appeared to be living flame. Without needing a word, the new arrival split, taking positions that suggested a planned strategy. Zera exchanged a look with her temporary allies. "We can't let them get to him first," she stated, her voice a whisper that carried a command. Vela nodded, her scales shimmering as she prepared to move. "I'll take the front," she declared, her voice confident, leaving no room for argument. Ixchel simply nodded, her fiery eyes scanning the surroundings, already plotting multiple outcomes. The three made their move, each using their unique abilities to close in on the house. Zera manipulated the light around her, bending it to render herself nearly invisible as she approached from the back. Vela used her agility, scaling the side of the house to perch on the roof, her eyes on the windows. Ixchel, meanwhile, created minor distortions in the air, subtle tricks of the light to mislead anyone watching from the inside. Inside, Michael was still unaware of the convergence of cosmic interest around him. His sleep was restless, a sense of unease creeping into his dreams, vague shadows flickering at the edge of his subconscious. It was Zera who made the first contact, her form coalescing silently beside his bed. Michael awoke with a start, his eyes wide as he took in the surreal vision before him. Zera held up a hand, a universal gesture of peace. "Michael Gordon," she began, her voice soothing yet carrying an underlying firmness. "You are not safe. I am here to protect you." Before Michael could respond, a crash sounded from downstairs, the front door yielding to some unseen force. Vela's voice echoed through the house, a warning cry as she prepared to confront the intruders. The fiery-haired newcomer burst through the doorway, her companion cloaked in shadows flanking her. The house became a battlefield of light and shadow, each alien using their powers in a display of otherworldly prowess. Michael looked from Zera to the chaos unfolding beyond his bedroom, his mind racing to keep up with the reality shattering around him. Zera moved to stand protectively in front of him, her form a shield of shifting light. "We need to leave," she urged, grabbing his arm. "Now." Together they navigated through the chaos, dodging energy blasts and spectral figures that seemed to erupt from the very walls. Outside, the night had turned surreal, the town of Elm Ridge a silent witness to an interstellar conflict unfolding in its heart. As they fled into the night, Zera knew the real struggle was just beginning. Michael's safety was her responsibility, and the pursuit would be relentless. But for now, their first objective was clear: escape and survive. The race for possession had turned into a desperate flight, a new kind of battle where the prize was life itself. The air chilled as they dashed through the empty streets of Elm Ridge, their breaths visible in the cold night. Zera led Michael by the hand, her otherworldly agility evident as she navigated obstacles with grace, her form occasionally flickering to blend into the night. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit grew fainter, yet neither dared to relax, knowing their adversaries were both persistent and resourceful. Michael stumbled over a loose cobblestone, his human limitations stark against Zera's alien capabilities. "Where are we going?" he gasped, his voice strained with exertion and fear. "To a safe location," Zera replied without slowing, her eyes scanning the environment for any sign of a trap or ambush. She knew they needed a momentary refuge to strategize, and more importantly, to explain to Michael the gravity of his situation. As they turned into an alleyway, she pushed aside a dumpster with surprising strength, revealing a hidden underground entrance. "In here," she instructed, helping Michael down into the dark opening. Below, the tunnel was narrow and damp, the walls echoing their movements. Zera's steps echoed eerily off the tight corridor walls, the sound a stark contrast to the silent guidance of her light manipulation, which provided a faint illumination. "This passage will shield us for a while," she explained. "It's old, forgotten by your people." Michael, catching his breath, looked around with wide eyes. "Why are they after me?" His voice was a mix of confusion and rising panic. Zera regarded him with a solemn expression, her colors dimming slightly in the dim light. "Your DNA carries a unique sequence, a rarity that holds potential power in genetic engineering, an advancement that could shift the balance of power in the cosmos." Michael's face paled. "So I'm just, what, a specimen to them?" "Not just to them," Zera replied gently. "You are important to many. That's why I'm here, to ensure your safety and, if possible, your freedom." Their conversation was cut short by a distant sound reverberating through the tunnel. Zera tensed, her form becoming more luminous. "We need to keep moving. They have ways of tracking that we need to stay ahead of." They continued, the tunnel gradually sloping downwards, leading them beneath the town. After what felt like miles, Zera finally halted beside a rusted door. She pressed her palm against it, and with a silent command, the door creaked open, revealing a small bunker-like room furnished with minimal essentials, a haven from another age. "This will be our base for now," Zera declared, guiding Michael inside. She began pulling out what looked like alien devices from a compact bag she had carried unnoticed until now. "What are those?" Michael asked, curiosity momentarily overtaking his fear. "Tools," she replied, "for communication, surveillance, and if necessary, defense." She handed him a small device. "This will alert me if you are in danger. Keep it with you at all times." As Zera set up her equipment, arranging devices that hummed and blinked with unfamiliar lights, Michael took a deep breath, trying to absorb the reality of his new existence. From an ordinary man to a being of cosmic interest, his life had changed irrevocably in just one night. Outside, the pursuit continued, their hunters weaving through the town, searching, always searching. But for now, in this small forgotten bunker, Michael and Zera had a respite, a brief moment to plan, prepare, and ponder the vast, starlit battlefield on which they now found themselves unwilling warriors. The bunker's stale air grew tense as Zera configured the last of her devices, her focus intense. She glanced at Michael, noticing his unease. "We'll need to train," she said abruptly. "You must be prepared to defend yourself." Michael swallowed hard, the idea of fighting alien forces seeming like something out of a dream. "Train? With what?" His voice cracked slightly. Zera handed him a small, sleek device that expanded into a staff with a flick of her wrist. "With this. It's a multifunctional weapon adapted to your physical capabilities. It can stun, create shields, and more." Her explanation was matter-of-fact, as if handing out alien weaponry was an everyday occurrence. Outside, the search for them intensified. Unseen by the hunters, surveillance devices placed by Zera fed live images back to the bunker's monitors. Their pursuers moved with precision, a testament to their relentless training and enhancements. "Watch closely," Zera instructed, pointing to the screen where an alien cloaked in shadow used a device similar to the one she had given Michael. "See how she moves, how she uses minimal force for maximum effect." Michael watched, trying to mimic the movements, his body awkward at first. Zera corrected his stance, her hands firm yet gentle. "Balance is key. Anticipate. React." Hours slipped by as they practiced, Michael gradually improving under Zera's meticulous tutelage. The bunker, once a place of refuge, transformed into a training ground, echoing with the sounds of exertion and the hum of technology. As they took a brief pause, the screen flickered with a new image. The fiery-haired alien and her companion had stopped, communicating via their own devices. "They're regrouping, possibly changing tactics," Zera analyzed, her voice calm but her concern evident. "Can they find us here?" Michael's question hung heavy in the air. "Not immediately, but we can't stay much longer," Zera admitted, turning back to the monitors. "We need to think several steps ahead." The respite was short-lived. A sudden alarm blared from one of the devices, indicating a breach in the perimeter Zera had secured earlier. "They found a way through my defenses," she announced, her tone urgent. Grabbing their minimal belongings, they prepared to move. "We head to the secondary site," Zera instructed as she erased all traces of their presence with a swift command that rendered the equipment inert and untraceable. The tunnel they chose this time was narrower, part of an older network that burrowed deeper under the town. The air was cooler here, the path lit only by the glow from Zera's device. Every shadow seemed to stretch endlessly, every sound a potential threat. As they navigated the labyrinthine passageways, Zera shared more about the cosmic factions vying for control, the significance of Michael's unique genetic makeup, and the possible outcomes if they failed. Her words painted a picture of a universe much larger and more complex than Michael had ever imagined.
Your DNA could lead to advancements in healing, longevity, or destruction, she explained. In the wrong hands, it could be weaponized, altering the very fabric of life. Emerging from the tunnel's end, they found themselves at the outskirts of another town. The transition from the underground to the surface was disorienting, the night sky expansive and star-filled. Zera paused, her gaze on the heavens. "We are not just fighting for your survival, Michael. We are fighting for the balance." The night enveloped them as they skirted the town's edge, the celestial bodies overhead observing their silent progress. Each step brought a palpable sense of vulnerability, the vast, open spaces reminding them of their exposure. Zera's form occasionally flickered, her energy focused on concealing their movements from any prying eyes. "Where are we headed now?" Michael's voice was low, barely above a whisper as he glanced back towards the darkened tunnel entrance they had just exited. "To a contact of mine," Zera replied, her eyes scanning the horizon. "An ally who can provide us with shelter and more advanced resources." Their pace quickened as they approached a secluded farmhouse, its structure old and weathered, the paint peeling from years of neglect. The isolation of the location was strategic, offering them a temporary sanctuary. As they neared, a figure stepped out from the shadows of the porch, the glow from the doorway outlining a tall, robust form. "This is Tark," Zera introduced as they approached. Tark was evidently another alien, his skin a deep cobalt blue, eyes like polished onyx reflecting the moonlight. "He's been on Earth longer than I have. He understands the stakes." Tark nodded, his gaze assessing Michael with a discerning look. "You're the one causing all this trouble," he remarked, though his tone bore no malice. "Come inside. We've got a lot to cover." Inside, the farmhouse was surprisingly modern despite its outer appearance, equipped with technology that seemed to blend alien innovation with Earth-based designs. Tark led them to a secure room, the walls lined with screens displaying various data streams and maps. "We've been monitoring the movements of your Perseiders," Tark explained, gesturing to the screens. "They're not just random opportunists. They're elite agents from the coalition of Brenar. They won't give up easily." Michael absorbed this new information, the names and terms swirling in his head. "What exactly do they want with me?" he asked, his confusion evident. "Your genetic code," Zera interjected, her voice firm. "It's not just about power. It's about creating a bridge between species, enhancing abilities, prolonging life. The right or wrong hands could tip the balance of universal peace or ignite endless war." Tark pulled up a holographic display showing a complex genetic strand. "See here," he pointed to specific sequences. "Your DNA integrates traits that are compatible across multiple alien species. It's rare, making you incredibly valuable." The weight of the situation settled on Michael's shoulders like a lead cloak. He was a pawn in a game too vast to comprehend fully. Zera placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch reassuring. "We won't let them take you. We plan to negotiate with the coalition, use their interest in you to broker peace." Tark nodded, turning off the display. "But first, we train. You need to be able to protect yourself, at least long enough for us to intervene." The next few days were a blur of intense training sessions, both physical and mental. Michael learned to handle various technologies and weapons, his body adapting to the rigorous demands with surprising resilience. Zera and Tark worked seamlessly, their instructions precise and demanding. As Michael grew more adept, his confidence also grew. He was no longer just a bystander in his own fate, he was actively shaping it. Their brief period of calm was shattered by an alert on Tark's monitoring system. "They found us," Tark announced, his voice calm but urgent. "We need to move now." Gathering their equipment, they prepared to evacuate. Michael took a deep breath, readying himself for whatever lay ahead. The stakes were clear, and the game was far from over. They exited the farmhouse under the cover of darkness, disappearing into the night as new coordinates were set, leading them deeper into the heart of a conflict that spanned galaxies. As the trio made their stealthy exit from the farmhouse, the surrounding landscape seemed to pulse with hidden threats. Each shadow cast by the moonlight might conceal an enemy agent.
Every rustle of the wind through the trees might mask the approach of danger. Zera led the way, her senses attuned to the slightest disturbance, while Tark brought up the rear, his broad frame a reassuring presence for Michael, who jogged between them. The urgency of their flight was compounded by the increasing activity of their pursuers, evident in the sporadic bursts of communication intercepted by Tark's portable device. "They're using a triangulation sweep to pin down our location," Tark muttered, glancing at the glowing screen. "We need to disrupt their sensors." Zera nodded, pulling a small, intricate device from her belt. "I can set up a frequency jammer. It will give us a short window to get out of their range." She paused near a dense thicket, working quickly to activate the device, which emitted a low, throbbing hum as it powered up. "Done," she announced, tucking the device away. "Let's move." They continued their escape through increasingly rugged terrain, the underbrush thickening, making their progress slower but providing more cover. Michael, though tired, kept pace, driven by the adrenaline that surged through his veins. He had learned much from Zera and Tark, not just about defending himself, but also about harnessing his fear into focus. After several hours, as dawn began to color the eastern sky with shades of pink and orange, they reached a secluded valley ringed by dense forests. Tark surveyed the area with a nod. "We'll make our stand here. The geography is in our favor, and with Zera's jammers, we'll have some control over the engagement." Zera and Michael set to work under Tark's direction, deploying more devices around the perimeter and setting up defensive positions. Michael, now somewhat familiar with the alien technology, handled each piece with increasing confidence. As the sun rose, bathing the valley in light, the tension among them mounted. They knew that the confrontation was imminent, the brief peace of the morning a stark contrast to the chaos that would soon erupt. It wasn't long before the first signs of the enemy's approach were detected. "Multiple targets incoming," Tark announced, his eyes glued to a portable scanner. "Looks like they're not taking any chances." Zera positioned herself beside Michael, her expression serious. "Remember, stay calm. Use everything you've learned. We fight not just to survive, but to negotiate from a position of strength." Michael nodded, feeling the weight of his training settle around him like armor. The first of the enemy agents appeared at the tree line, figures clad in sleek combat suits that shimmered with a stealth technology. They moved forward cautiously, aware of the potential traps. Then, all at once, the valley erupted into chaos. Energy blasts crisscrossed the open space, explosions of light and sound that rocked the morning air. Michael, taking cover behind a fallen log, used his device to create a protective shield, just as Zera had taught him. He peered out, firing stun shots at the approaching enemies, his aim true. Zera and Tark were a whirlwind of motion, their counterattacks precise and effective. But even as they gained the upper hand, a new threat emerged. A massive figure, clad in armor that was different from the rest, more ornate and clearly indicating a high rank. This new adversary charged, disrupting their formations and forcing Zera and Tark to adapt quickly. Michael, seeing an opening, took a calculated risk. He ran towards the commander, dodging blasts and debris, and launched a direct attack using a combination of tactics he had practiced over the past days. The commander was taken aback, surprised by Michael's skill and audacity. The fight between them was intense, a true test of Michael's training